Good morning and welcome from LeDuc Weddings. I'm your host, Armando LeDuc.
And I'm Shauna Raplow-LeDuc, and you are watching The Wedding Minute, the show that gives you all the inside tips from the top wedding professionals.
We are in the beautiful venue, the Monastery. Every street in New Orleans has a story to tell. The Monastery starts in 1812. In its 164 plus years since, it has transitioned from a monastery into a full-service wedding venue. Today we're here with Leah Brahanu, who is the Sales and Marketing Director for Pigeon Catering. Pigeon Catering has been in business for 20 years, right?
Yes.
And the monastery's been here for about a year. It's a beautiful venue. And then she also represents the Petite Bourbon and the New Orleans Board of Trade. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great.
We are also here with Eric Fredericks, owner of Bees Wedding and Events Designs. Eric is born and raised in New Orleans. He married his high school sweetheart, Carolyn, also part of the Bees team. He is a father of 3, and he is second generation owner of Bees Wedding Designs. Now, Bees Designs is a full service design studio. They specialize in weddings and special events.
Correct.
And Eric has been in the industry for 35 plus years.
35 plus years.
35 plus years, you guys. He's very passionate about design, and he loves working with couples who are planning their weddings.
Eric and Leah, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Yes, we're glad you guys are here.
Excited
now,
to be here.
Yes, great. Now tell me, what made you guys want to get into the wedding business?
So, for me, it was by complete accident. I work for Pigeon Catering and Events, and first day on the job, one of the owners actually forgot that I was coming that day and just put me at a desk. And a few months later, I was doing site visits. Long story short.
Wow.
And you know, hospitality was not new for me. I mean, I've bartended, bar supervisor, banquets, and everything. But this was my first sales job, and I have no problem talking. And I knew
Him
what
neither.
right, and I knew what I was talking about because of my experience. So it actually became very natural, very easy. I actually, in the catering world, prefer weddings over any other events. I love that you know, couples are personally invested. I love that their parents enjoy the process. I mean, Tastings is, I mean, it's filled with champagne and wine and, you know, let's talk about your wedding. I mean, what bride doesn't want to talk about their wedding, right? And it's the only time I eat, so it's great. So I literally did fall into it, but over the 10 years I've been at Pigeon, I mean, I've really, truly enjoyed it and would rather do nothing else. I mean, that's just my favorite event to cater, so.
That sounds like a really fun life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
As long as I don't gain too much weight, it's fantastic.
That's my biggest problem every
Right.
time I'm at a wedding. It's just like, gotta stay away from the food.
Right, I'm only gonna eat, you know, one, just make
Enough
a
to
plate.
stay alive?
I always
Yeah.
say, you guys, you know, make a plate so you know what you've eaten, and then just like walk away. Just do one. Do it once.
Or just stick to the protein, you know, the keto.
Or just eat it all.
Right?
Or just eat it all.
You
Get
know,
it out of it.
but then you get into the whole, you know, oh, the cake looks pretty and it smells pretty, and where's it from? So I have to try it.
You have to try
You
the
know,
wedding cake.
it's a slippery slope. Slippery slope.
My story starts 35 years ago when my mom and dad just decided to open up a flower shop. And I interviewed a bride, and from that moment on, it's all I wanted to do. However, we did full service flower shop for many years. And just before Katrina hit, I told my wife, I said, we either going to do weddings only, or I'm closing the doors and I'm giving this up because I'm not happy. She said, well, if you do that, you're going to make so many people upset. I said, well, it's either they're upset or I'm upset.
Right.
So pick.
You gotta be
And then Katrina happened, unfortunately, but it was actually a blessing in disguise because when we came back to rebuild, I knew what I had, and it was weddings. They were booked for the year, a year after.
Wow.
So I just fed off of that and kept it going. And like I said, I'm living exactly my dream and what I'm passionate about.
And that's amazing. That's amazing
Yeah.
to be able to do your passion, because not a lot of people can say that. And
Yep.
you're living every day doing what you love.
Yep.
So why weddings though?
I think it was seeing the transition of a couple that would come in just in street clothes, hair up in a ponytail, maybe a baseball cap on, and then just seeing it all come together. You know, they have an idea of what they're looking for. And I think there's so much excitement and joy that comes with a wedding, unlike, you know, some of the other events that a flower shop has to take care of. And I just knew that that was the kind of life I wanted to live on a day-to-day basis. I remembered, you know, the planning that my wife and I went through and how much we enjoyed that. And I just want that experience for anybody that walks in my doors.
How long you been married?
We are married 35 years. We got married right before the business, no, right after the business started.
Congratulations.
It's amazing.
Yes.
What's the secret?
Patience.
I
I don't know if you heard some snickering in the background.
I've only been married, what, less than two. It's about to be 2 years.
November made our 1-year anniversary,
Right.
so.
So we're
Very
going
good.
on 2 here. And yeah, patience, I would say patience and just learning when to shut up. Right, honey?
Choosing your battles, I think.
Yeah, choose those
Choosing your
battles.
battles. Yes, yes.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Learning how to use your words.
Use your words. All right. So, I'd like to know a funny story. I always like to ask my guests a funny story that they've encountered, whether it was in the planning process or the actual wedding itself.
Well, this one happened the day of the wedding. Beautiful church on Tulane Avenue, St. Joseph's. Some of you may know it.
Yes. My sister got married there.
Very, very formal wedding, black tie, the whole 9 yards. The grandmother proceeds to go down the aisle, and as she's going down the aisle, her pantyhose fell down below her knees. She had no idea it happened. She sits in the pew. Somebody behind her taps on her shoulder and says, "Your pantyhose fell down."
Oh no.
She didn't do anything. She stood up and pulled them.
How old do you think she was?
Grandmothers? 80-ish? You know, I mean,
Wow.
yeah.
She doesn't care at that
Don't
age.
mind
She
me.
didn't care. She had no clue. She didn't care. Top that one.
What funny stories do you have?
Well, before I go into my story, nothing's funny during the
business.
incidents. No, it's never
Serious
funny at
business.
that moment.
Yeah.
It's always funny after, once you figure it out. You know, like the best man forgot the wedding rings, but he wasn't very sure which room. That's not funny at that moment.
At the moment, right.
It's funny once he finds it and the wedding starts on
Sure.
time. It's when it's hilarious. No, there was one particular wedding, and I can honestly say that if it were any other couple than these two, it would have been, it would have just been a disaster. But they were they roll with the punches type of couple,
Right.
so it worked out. It was a ceremony at the Board of Trade, and there was a linen company across the street that kept beeping, so I had to go and scream at them to stop. And then there was a tow truck on the same street, so then I had to scream at them to stop. And then I realized their second line band was not coming. Like, as the ceremony's going on, I'm noticing that there was no brass band. So I called them. I knew who they were. There was only a trumpet player that showed up because they had the wrong day. So he's there, and they go on the second line with the trumpet player. They came back with 4 pieces. So eventually, pieces, yes. But their officiant fell going up the stairs at the Board of Trade while the second line was going on. So he couldn't get up, so we had to get an ambulance. And when the ambulance pulled up, a whole reality show came out of the ambulance
gosh.
because there was a show going on. And then he refused service, which I'm like, dude, you made us do all of this. You should go in the ambulance. But no. And then the second line was coming back while the ambulance was there. And then a linen caught on fire at some point in the reception. I promise this is the same wedding. This is the same wedding. And not only was it the same wedding, it was literally within like the first 80 minutes. It was all like...
Were they married by the time he fell in the linen closet?
Yes, he was married. So they were coming back from the second line. They just saw flashing lights, and they're like, Leah, what's going on? I was like, I just need 2 seconds. And we were kind of passing beer and wine in the arcade while we were kind of shuffling everybody to the side. And they went inside, and they were very happy with it. I mean, like I said, they were so like... oh, we got everything anyway, you know, and it was very, it's always, it's funny after. never
well,
during.
And especially for the bride and the groom, by the time they've gotten there and they've
Exactly.
gotten married and they survived it without fainting, it's like, you know what?
Exactly.
They let it go. It's you and everyone
That's
else
having
who's
to
worked so hard
like
to put
deal
it
with
together.
it, and the linen catching
Right.
off. I mean, that was like that was some guest that dropped a votive, and it was like this whole thing. And I mean, they were in the back having their private dinner, so they didn't
sounds
even
like a
like
cartoon.
realize.
That's
It
wild.
was, and maybe like a week or two after. I did get an email from the bride saying, "Oh, I didn't know everything you dealt with." Like I had no idea. It was a guest that stayed behind from the second line is the one that actually
Wow.
told her everything that happened. So again, it's only funny after it's over.
Right.
It's never
Right.
funny during.
That's a memorable moment right there.
So can you tell me one of the most memorable moments of a wedding that you've
Yes.
done? Or an event?
Yes. The most memorable moment that I've ever had in my 35 years just happened on November 11th. That was the date that my son and my daughter-in-law got married. And I can still remember when she walked in the tent and saw everything, how she was just blown away. Blown away. You can see how it's still,
Well, because you had so much to do
Yeah.
with it.
yeah. A year of planning. You know, I can take care of all the details. I can make sure that flowers look good. I can make sure candles look good. One thing you can't do is make sure that the weather's going to be good. You know, so we prayed and we prayed and we prayed, and we got exactly what we wanted. It was a picture perfect evening. And like I said, when they walked in that tent and saw everything, they were so touched. It was
That's amazing.
very rewarding. Yeah.
Tell us about what you did, design-wise.
Well, we did a 60 by 60 tent out on the lawn at the Salman Fritchie House, and so the doors were open to whatever we wanted to do. We were very fortunate that her uncle owns the property and is the caterer for the venue as well, and he basically told us from the very beginning, there's no restrictions, just whatever y'all want to do. However, I know that there are restrictions because I respect the property, so on and so forth.
Sure. What's your favorite memorable
My
moment?
favorite memorable moment, there's really nothing in particular, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I love when a couple puts their personal touches on something, on anything, I mean, it could be your dogs as your ring bearer and flower girl.
We had that.
It could be, if there are a lot of couples that have, that have kids a lot of times, and they'll come up with their own dance, or incorporate them into the first dances or into the ceremony. Those are always fantastic. Family pictures, anything like that where only your guests would understand
Right.
why that particular thing is there.
Right.
I think it makes them remember, that specific thing at your wedding. So I feel like that's always very important.
That's beautiful.
So what are 3 mistakes that you can help brides avoid?
Day of coordinators.
We want them.
We don't want them.
We don't want them. We don't
Well, let
want
me start
them.
over. Let me not say that. Let me not say we don't want them. Let me say that there's no such thing as a day of coordinator. I truly believe when you have taken anywhere, I mean, some weddings take only 6 months. There are some weddings that take 18 months
Yes.
to plan. If you've been planning for 18 months, to have 18 months of planning crammed into this one person that you've hired to execute everything on that day, I have seen things fall through the cracks. So I would say a month of coordinators, I believe, are fantastic. They are, involved in the process slightly earlier, but enough to wrap things up and to have multiple conversations with you and to have, So I would
To get a better
definitely.
understanding of the scope of what they're working with.
Exactly.
As opposed to being thrown to the wolves the day of.
Exactly. And the by wolves, it's both family and bridesmaids and vendors.
Yes.
Because vendors, like I could say, no, we talked about this 3 months ago. And
Right.
that person wasn't there.
Right, right.
So I would definitely say, if you do not have a planner for the whole process, at least a month of
Okay.
would be fantastic. I'm gonna go into a catering route on this one.
Okay.
Because that's what I do. Going back to the same answer as the memorable moments. If you're from North Carolina, let's do some traditional shrimp and grits, and then let's do the New Orleans style barbecue shrimp and
Sure.
grits. You know, if you're from if you're from New York, you know, to have something, you know, East Coast. If you're from Boston, you know, have some like lobster rolls. Do something, even if it's just that one or two item that you know really, you know, sings home for you or your guests. I think that again kind of goes a
Those
really
personal
long
touches.
way.
Sure.
Exactly, those personal touches. The third, I'm out. No, I mean there are a lot
We were
of.
just talking about how you're increasing the amount of hors d'oeuvres that are being passed.
Oh, correct.
You know,
Yeah.
versus
Yep.
so much buffet style.
Exactly.
It's
So-
kind of, trend is kind of changing a little bit.
It is. It's changing, and it does matter what your guest expects to a certain extent. A lot of times, our destination weddings, if they're coming from the West Coast or East Coast, they do prefer a seated dinner. I always love to have a conversation and say like, this is how we usually do it, and this is why. So to be able to incorporate the partying side of New Orleans and to really get things flowing, having a lot more heavy passed hors d'oeuvres. And it doesn't have to only be hors d'oeuvres, they can be small plates. So they're just kind of mini meals that are passed throughout the whole reception. Not only do you not have food coming to your guests, but you're also offering a lot more options. You're providing a lot of different type of items. You could even do a different theme for every hour. We had one wedding, Jared's wedding. We had one wedding where right at the strike of midnight, it was Cinco de Mayo. So they put ponchos and big sombrero hats on for their second line, and we passed oyster burritos and little margarita shooters out of hollowed out limes. Oyster burritos. So it's like the oysters. It's amazing. And it was made.
tortilla?
And yeah, it was a flour tortilla, but it was a fried oyster, and they had a little bit of remoulade and some slaw in it, so it kind of had that nice little Cajun side to it. Exactly.
I mean, this is New Orleans.
Exactly. Yeah. So to
Anytime we get the opportunity to eat and party, we're going to do it. So doing it at a wedding is one of the best places to do that.
it's embracing it. you
Yes.
know, embracing it,
Yeah.
Lean into
and making sure that there's a reason why you picked this city and show your guests why.
Amazing.
What are 3 mistakes you see?
I don't know that it's so much of a mistake. It's that I find that they're so inundated by social media today, and there's many tools out there that they can access to use as references to help create and design their wedding. The unfortunate thing is that these tools don't tell them how much things cost. You know, so when they come to us with their Pinterest boards, or they come to us and they show us things that they've seen on Instagram, they think they can afford it, and unfortunately when they find out how much it costs and they realize, okay, well, I can't afford it.
Right.
So unfortunately it starts to crush dreams. You know, so I'd like to say to just be really cautious of getting too consumed by social media. I think Pinterest is a great tool, but you got to use it correctly.
Yes.
You know, be aware that pictures of lots and lots of flowers, there's a huge price tag that comes with it. You know, might be a way that we can take that idea, incorporate it into something else that's more budget friendly. But that would be one thing that I would say is just be a little cautious of getting too caught up in, you know, all the social media that's available to us right now.
Which is so easy to do.
Very
because
easy.
Weddings, romantic ideas,
Right.
and you just get, whisked away, and
Yeah,
all
you
the
just don't do it
romance
all.
and the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also find that sometimes brides will sink all their money into their venue, and I don't mean this personally by no means, you know. I think you'll understand what I'm saying, but you know, if you throw all your money into your venue, then you go start planning flowers, decor, and all the other specialties that you need. Exactly, you know. Just because you got a venue doesn't mean you have catering. You know, you got a space to have it, but you got to build all that back in.
Right.
You know, so be careful that you're not dropping too much of your budget right off the bat.
Right.
You know, because you got to keep the whole thing into perspective. I also kind of say, after you get engaged, sit back, enjoy the engagement, and then start planning.
That's
You know,
good
because I
advice.
really think that they get so excited that they just start making quick decisions. And I think you should be a little bit more conscious of that and just slow the pace down a little bit so you can really enjoy all the moments of being engaged.
Really good advice.
Yeah.
It's really good advice. Yeah.
Thanks.
Do you have any tips that you can give us as someone who does
When it
design?
comes to designing flowers, in order to avoid maybe paying a lot of money towards certain flowers, stay within season. And I have a lot of brides come in and say, well, what flowers are in season? And I kind of redirect and I say, well, let's not worry about what's in season. You know, as we're talking, if something comes up in conversation that's not in season, I'll let you know that it's not.
Right.
You know, because I could give you a list of things that aren't in season. I could give you a list of things that are in season. Also, don't try to figure out what's in season, what's not in season. Let us, the professionals, help
That's
guide
why you're the
you that.
professional.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you guys so much for being on
Yes.
our show. We're going to open it up to you. You can look right into that camera and let us know where we can find you, website, Facebook, social media, anything that, how we can find you. How can we find you?
The Pigeon Catering and Events website is pigeonevents.com. Pigeon is spelled like pigeon. It's not pigeon until you put the accent over the E. You can also find information on the monastery at monasterynola.com. We also have both Facebook and Instagram, or you can give us a call at 504-262-0412.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. We're located at 738 Phosphor Avenue in Metairie, and our phone number is 504-830-4031.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please
Subscribe below.
subscribe below and check out www.leducweddings.love. What is he doing? leducweddings.love for more videos and tips. I'm gonna. Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. We'll see y'all next time.